Hey everybody, what's up? Nate McAllister here with another audio first video here where I'm going to kind of riff on something that I think is super important but is not talked about enough. Something that impacted me a lot, and it's kind of a wolf dressed in sheep's clothing. It is the negative impact of reading. This is going to trigger a lot of people, and it would have really upset me even just like a year ago reading or listening to something like this. But it's super important, and I promise I have a pretty decently thought out idea here that I want to share with you. So when it comes to self-education and nonfiction books, so everything I'm about to talk about is related to that, a nonfiction self-help business type of books. You know, your Think and Grow Rich, your Rich Dad, Poor Dad, anything that's even niche, even things like my book, my Evergreen Affiliate Marketing book. There is a time and a place for that type of self-education. And early on, when you're first getting started and you don't really have your direction, I don't think that you can read or listen or consume too much. I just don't think you can. I think it's so important to just completely immerse yourself early on. I was fortunate enough to work at a job that let me have my headphones on while I was working. So I just binge listened to all types of internet business podcasts, mostly Pat Flynn's Smart Passive Income. And it was through that I learned about Amazon FBA. And it was through that I learned about blogging and just learned about the power of all the things that are possible with digital entrepreneurship in the 21st century. And I wouldn't have found that if I wasn't listening and doing audiobooks and doing podcasts and reading books at night. So absolutely 1000% there is a place for reading. However, there is a point where it becomes kind of toxic. It's just like anything can have a toxic dose if done too much. And self-education is right in line with that. The problem is that it feels so productive. I was making reading a part of my day. I was making sure that I was reading at least 30 minutes every day, usually more than that. And I would do that pretty much first thing in the morning as part of my like miracle morning routine. And I felt super productive, and I was super proud of myself. I felt great. It was awesome. But I started to realize, you know what? What have I implemented lately from what I've read? What has actually moved the needle in what I've read? And I started to get to the point where I'm like, I think I'm reading the same book over and over and over again. That is the nature of the nonfiction book industry, especially the more vague books, like any book on productivity, any book on investing. They're all like 95% the same stuff. It's a business, just like anything else. If you read that book and it's the only one you've read, awesome. Even if it's like the fifth one you've read, awesome. But if you've read 20 different books on the same topic, there's a diminishing return on that. Economics, we call it a diminishing marginal return, and that is so absolutely true. And the danger is that it feels productive. And the problem is that not only takes away from action during that time, which is not a huge amount of time. I completely appreciate that. I mean, 30 minutes. People watch Netflix 2 or 3 hours a day. I mean, 30 minutes isn't that big of a deal. But the problem is that you're writing that in to your schedule as, oh, this was 30 minutes of super productive work and focus. And you're using that energy for something that is not really doing anything. And it's taking energy away from other aspects of your life. So you're kind of looking at your day as being more productive than it actually was. And I'm saying this was me, absolutely 1000%. So what do we do about this? Am I telling you to stop reading? No, absolutely not. Am I telling you to stop with the self-education? No, absolutely not. But there is a point where you do need to start to shift. And this is where I'm at now with my own self-education. I try to focus now, instead of reading the same books over and over again, the same general concept type of business books. What I try to do now is I try to focus on real, tangible, hard skills. Things that you find on YouTube, for example, are generally more timely. They're generally focused more on things that you can implement right now. And I'm focusing and doubling down on actually acting on things. Part of the problem with reading, and I'll put a little graphic up here. I know I said this is audio only. you don't really need to to see it, but essentially we remember less than 20% of what we read. So think about that. We're reading the same things over and over again. So the only real value there is that we actually need to read them over and over again to really get most of it and to remember it. The problem is that if you can't act on it, it's going to just go away anyway, and that time is wasted. Is this the most toxic thing you could do? No, absolutely not. Absolutely not. And also, if you're the type of person that is dedicating reading time like that every day, you're probably the type of person that's going to make things work anyway. So I think a lot of people maybe attribute their success to the reading rather than the fact that they're the type of person who would do that. It's kind of like, is a vegetarian healthier because of the absence of meat or the presence of more vegetables? You know, it's kind of just an interesting thing to think about. So anyway, back to what we need to do, what I recommend that we do, and what I'm doing is I'm focusing on hard skills. I'm focusing on doing things, and when I need to learn something, I drop what I'm doing and I go and I learn it, and then I do it. Again, going back to this graph, this pyramid, things that we do, we remember at upwards of 60%. So if you actually implement something immediately, you're going to remember it. And that's where the real value comes in. The things that we read have no value if we don't remember them when it's time to implement them. So if we can implement them immediately, it's tremendously more valuable, right? So that's pretty much it for me, guys. I just think that that's something you need to think about. Ask yourself, am I over learning because I'm putting off doing something else? Or is what I'm reading the best thing for me right now? Am I reading something I've basically already read just with a different cover? Or is this something that is actually applicable to me right now? So things to consider. Let me know what you guys think down in the comments. Again, I'm not saying that reading is bad for you, but there is a point in your career where you do need to make that transition and trust yourself that you probably know a lot of the stuff that's already in these books, or it's just not applicable to you right now. And you need to know that and fight the urge to do what all of us, entrepreneurs love to seem to do. And that's self-help, self-development. It's a blessing and a curse. At scale, it can become a negative thing. So be careful with that, guys. Let me know what you think again down in the comments. Thanks for watching. And as always, be sure to like and subscribe if you want 2 to 3 videos like this every week.